members, the members will not rule each other out of order. And I think that issue had already been canvassed by Honorable Mbadi. Honorable Osoro, go on.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the issue of the composition of the committee has been prosecuted by Honorable Anthony Oluoch, it's very important for us to also remember, and it's on Hansard, the speakers that have spoken before me are on record as saying that this was a unanimous decision, and we do not want to dwell on who voted how with the committee. We are generally discussing about the entire report by the committee. And it's important for me, Honorable Speaker, to say this. We understand that at times local politics play when such appointments or opportunities arise during the appointments. I call upon my colleague leaders that let's learn to put our country ahead of everything. My imagination is that even the local politics must have played in this whole thing to reject, that warranted the rejection of Penina Malonza. However, Honorable Speaker, it is wrong to only use one parameter to deny her. I think if we were to be fair, we ought to have allowed every, if the rejection ought to be on matters that are serious, that affect on, that touch on Chapter 6 of the Constitution, that touch on suitability, but not on issues of, presentation to the committee. Maybe she wasn't dressed very well. Maybe she was on her periods. You cannot start making her. Yes, exactly.
Your time is up. Your time is up. Your time is up. Order, members. Order, members. Order, members. We will now hear the Honourable Member for Suna East, Honourable Junet Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this motion, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm a member of the appointment committee that vetted the nominees, Madam Speaker, and we had taken a lot of our time to make sure that, Madam Speaker, we look into this matter in a very, very, very into a very good perspective, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, why we were doing that is because this is the highest decision-making organ of the country, Madam Speaker, the Cabinet of the Republic of Kenya. Madam Speaker, if I may give my views on what was presented before the committee, Madam Speaker, and in accordance with the report that we have made as a committee, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Constitution is very clear. The Constitution says that this country, when appointments are made, we must look into issues of regional balance, we must look into ethnic balance, and we must look into issues that can bring cohesion in this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you look at this appointment of these ministers, Madam Speaker, we have a cabinet now consisting of 24 members, Madam Speaker. 24 members. And if you look at the composition of this cabinet, Madam Speaker, of these 24, the region where the president comes from, Madam Speaker, 4 ministers come from there. Including the president, there are 5 in the cabinet. The region where the deputy president comes from have 8 ministers, Madam Speaker. Including him, there are 9. If you put 9 plus 5, there are 14. And the total number is 24. All the other parts of the country has only 10 cabinet ministers, Madam Speaker, ambayo wametupiwa kama kuku na tupiwa mahindi, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is when will a Turkana be a minister in this country? When will Borana be a minister in this country, Madam Speaker? When will a Korea be a minister in this country, Madam Speaker? If every election, year in and a Pokot, year in, year out, We have the president's region having 5 ministers, the deputy president ministers having 9 ministers, out on 24 ministers, you have 14, the other part of the country are 10. Madam Speaker, if that is not unfair, what do you call unfairness, Madam Speaker? This must stop, Madam Speaker. This is unconstitutional, Madam Speaker. This is an affront to the constitution of this country, Madam Speaker. That is why the constitution speaks to the issue of regional balance, ethnic balance, and cohesion of this country, Madam Speaker. First, Madam Speaker, on that note, this appointment lacks the constitutional merit that it requires for it to govern this country, Madam Speaker. Secondly, Madam Speaker, we have vetted the members. Some of them are distinguished, outstanding members, Madam Speaker, and I agree with the committee that some of them merit to be cabinet ministers, and they have qualified and passed the standards that we were looking for as a committee. But a few of them, Madam Speaker, as we have noted in our minority report, are substandard, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you are talking about the cabinet of the Republic of Kenya, and you want to have a cabinet minister seated there who has a live case in court, not a capital offense, Madam Speaker, of murder, Madam Speaker, how do you want this House to approve that, Madam Speaker, unless we have lost our head, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, it is very clear. It is very important for the image of this country, Madam Speaker, for that nominee to step aside, go and clear her cases in court. Once she has finished.
What is your point of order, Honorable GK of Ndia?
Who is GK?
Clerk, please give Honorable George Karaoke the microphone.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Junet, I am GK. Government, yes. And Honorable Speaker, my point of order is in regard to something he has said, that Atokana has never been a cabinet secretary in this country. We know very well we had Honorable Muñez, who was a cabinet secretary. So you are misleading the House. Please, that's my point of order, Madam Speaker. Withdraw.
Honorable Junet.
I know. Madam Speaker, I agree with the Honorable GK, the government of Kenya, that he thinks this 21 or 24 we are passing now has a Turkana in the... There is no Turkana in this list that we are passing as a cabinet minister, Madam Speaker. The one you are talking about was in the previous cabinet, Mr. Honorable Member. Now we are discussing new nominees, new appointment, Madam Speaker, under the new government of Kenya, under the leadership of President William Ruto, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is... I wanted to say that, Madam Speaker, the nominee for public service and gender, Madam Speaker, it is imperative, Madam Speaker, let us not trivialize the matter, because what the standards we are going to set in this parliament today, it is what is going to be used in the future, Madam Speaker. If we approve a nominee today who has a case in court, who has a live case in court, Madam Speaker, of murder case, a capital offense, Madam Speaker, tomorrow anybody can be brought to this House with any kind of cases, Madam Speaker, and passed, because you will have set the standard that one time the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya passed a nominee with a murder case, Madam Speaker. And I'm not judging anyone. We cannot say she's guilty of the offense or she's not guilty of the offense. That is the courts to decide, not us, Madam Speaker. We need to let the court do their work, let the court judge her, acquit her, or convict her, Madam Speaker. Then from there, we can make a decision as a House, Madam Speaker, whether that person is fit to hold the office of a cabinet secretary, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, look at the world democracy, Madam Speaker. Look at developed countries, Madam Speaker. Look at the democracies that we borrow from, Madam Speaker. Leave alone being charged in court, Madam Speaker. When even allegation is put against you, whether they are true or false, until you clear your name, until you are told to step aside. Madam Speaker, Public officers who are in office, governors who have been charged in court were barred from their offices, Madam Speaker. Public officers who were taken to court were all told to leave office, Madam Speaker. What is the moral authority we have as a House to pass today in the floor of this House, Madam Speaker, a cabinet secretary who has a case in court, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the other nominee that was rejected unanimously by the committee is Honorable Madam Malonza. Madam Speaker, I don't want to speak like the way my colleague spoke here, whether she's a female, whether no. We were not looking at gender, Madam Speaker. We were looking at the suitability and the competence of that individual to hold that high office of a cabinet secretary, Madam Speaker. And if, in the eyes of the committee felt that the person did not stand up to the requirement of that office, Madam Speaker.
What is out of order, Honorable Makali Mulu?
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I didn't want to disturb my colleague and friend, Honorable Junet, but I think when he says that they were not looking at gender, that is unconstitutional. The Constitution demands that they must consider gender as one of the key factors when looking at these things. Thank you very much.
Honorable
Madam
Junet.
Speaker, Dr. Makali is somebody I respect highly. But Madam Speaker, the reason of our failure was not because of our gender. That's what I meant. And if that gender is not suitable for that office, Mr. Speaker, there are many qualified Kamba women, Mr. Speaker, in this country who can hold that office. She's not the only Kamba in Kenya. So, Mr. Speaker, I was just saying she was not disqualified based on her gender. Let us not bring the gender card on the table now just because she's a female lady, a female nominee who has been rejected by the committee, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, what I want to say is that Parliament is being watched by Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Parliament is being tested. This country, this Parliament has a destiny with the people of Kenya, Madam Speaker, on the approval of these nominees. Kenyans want to know whether we are a conveyor belt. Kenyans want to know whether we are a rubber stamp, Madam Speaker, for the executive. We must stand up and tell the executive they are wrong when they are wrong. There are many Kenyans who are qualified that they can bring back to this House, Madam Speaker. There are over 30 million Kenyans who can do the job of a cabinet secretary, Madam Speaker. It's not only me and you and others who have been nominated, Madam Speaker. The reason why the Constitution, Madam Speaker, gave the approval of nominees of cabinet secretary to the House, Madam Speaker, there is a valid reason for that, Madam Speaker. Look at what happens in the United States, Madam Speaker. If we approve these members just because we are part of the party that is forming government, Madam Speaker, we shall be doing injustice to Kenyans, Madam Speaker. You must rise up and stand up and defend the rights of Kenyans, Madam Speaker, whether it is favoring you or it's not favoring your party, Madam Speaker. So for that reason, Madam Speaker, I want to urge this House to agree with the minority that we reject those 3 nominees so that we can have other Kenyans nominated who are qualified, who can do the work for this country, Madam Speaker. When you are made a cabinet secretary, you're not going to serve your family. You're not going to serve your wife or your husband. You are going to serve the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya gave their sovereignty to the members of Parliament so that they can do on their behalf the vetting of the nominees, Madam Speaker. Honorable members, stand your grounds. Don't be intimidated. Whether you're in Kenya Kwanza, whether you're in Azimio, do the right thing for the people of Kenya, Madam Speaker. And we must stand up and defend the Kenyan people, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. And have a good day. And let's make sure those 3...
Your time is up. The member for Naivasha, Jane Kihara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this chance. First and foremost is to congratulate the team, the select team that was interviewing these nominees. They did a good job. I wish to congratulate all of them. We all listened, we saw, and these are people, some of them we know them, regardless. In fact, I want to talk about this lady, Penina Malonza. I met her on Mashujaa Day, and I spoke to her, and I think she's eloquent. She knows what she's supposed to be doing. In fact, her tray is already full, especially for Naivasha, being in tourism, nominated for tourism, heritage and wildlife, and everything else. We have problems with buffaloes in Naivasha. I told her, you have to help us here. Naivasha has been degraded. In fact, members of parliament are not going to Naivasha as much as we have good hotels, because we have been degraded. People go to Kisumu, to Nakuru, or Mombasa. You all know how we have good hotels. It's just that waking up on a bad day. It happens to all of us. Once in a while, you don't wake up on the right side. If she has all the credentials, she's schooled, she's well schooled, she has a degree. If she has served as a deputy governor, we know the requirement is having a degree. She has worked in very many offices. Like anybody else would say, maybe she did not answer the questions as they would have asked, but she's not going to start a ministry. She's going to find a ministry which is already running. So she's going to work with technical people who are going to help her run the ministry, and she'll learn the ropes and move ahead. I want to talk about Aisha. Aisha is a strong leader who we have seen in this country. Let's not use political malice to discredit Aisha. Aisha is a strong leader. She has worked in the Parliamentary Service Commission. She's been a commissioner. The fact that she divorced ODM, she should not be condemned, because it's ODM who told us he's a leader and nominated her to the commission. Honorable Mudavadi, Honorable Wadai, for heaven's sake, telling us that Honorable Mudavadi is going to be an errand person, an errand boy. We know he has worked in this country. In fact, he has been a vice president of this country. He has been a minister for finance. He cannot be an errand person. So he is able to do the work and supervise the ministers. Madam Speaker, it's upon this House to pass these nominees. You have CDF committees members. You are not going to get a person who is not going to help you perform your role. So the president nominated the people he thinks are going to help him deliver this country, remove it from the economic...
Honorable Junet, what is out of order?
Madam Speaker, this is a House of Record, Madam Speaker. You see, Madam Speaker, this report was done by a parliamentary committee called Appointments Committee, Madam Speaker, chaired by the Speaker, Honorable Moses Pasika Wetangula. Madam Speaker, is it in order for the Honorable Member to say that we are victimizing Aisha because she was a member of ODM? Now who's victimizing Malonza? Is it Kenya Kwanza because she was removed by the whole committee who are members of Kenya Kwanza and Azimio? Does it mean that Malonza was also victimized by Kenya Kwanza? Madam Speaker, those parochial way of debating can divide us, Madam Speaker, and we are ready for it.
Honorable Jean Kiara, continue.
I think I'll continue because, in fact, this lady may have feared Junet because of the way she asked questions. Maybe that's why. Because from her papers, from her credentials, she has served in many offices, she has worked in many offices, she has been a deputy governor, she has gone to school. So I think she just feared those remarks that usually are made by Honorable Junet. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, we don't need to be mean. We don't need to be mean just because the nominees have come from the president who maybe you did not support. I think we need this. We need to have a government running. We are waiting. Malonza, I'll run to her for our Naivasha being degraded. I'll go to her office because of the buffaloes we have. I know I'll go to Rinturi because we need seeds for our farmers. So this is something that we should do away with, get the government running, and we all start running to those offices because we need to serve the Kenyans who elected us. With those very, very many remarks, I don't need to say much. I only need to say we need to pass this report and reject the dissenting one. We pass every nominee so that they sit in the office. And especially Madam Malonza. Thank you.
Member for Endebess.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to the report by the Committee on Appointments. On the onset, Madam Speaker, what I want to say is that I support this report with amendments. The amendment is on rejection of Penina Malonza, where I'll be bringing an amendment to delete that rejection and approve the appointment of Madam Penina Malonza. And I'll ask the House that when the question will be put on Madam Penina Malonza, we'll put a nay so that it allows us to be able to approve this appointment. Reading at the observations of the committee, Madam Speaker, the reasons why I think that the committee erred on this report is that when you read the report, this nominee is the former deputy governor for Kitui County, having served since 2013 until 2017. Former partner training and support director for Compassion International, Kenya, office during the period 2012 to 2013, and also served as a program supervisor of Compassion International during the period 2010 to 2012. Senior program facilitator during the period 2009 to 2010, and program facilitator during the period 2006 to 2009 for Compassion International. The nominee also served as a project director for Changamwe Baptist Church between 2002 to 2006. She holds a master's in project management, in project planning and management, which she got in 2008. She has a higher diploma in psychological counseling management, which she got in 2007, and a Bachelor of Arts in anthropology from the University of Nairobi in 1998. Madam Speaker, when you look at this CV and you look at the recommendation of the committee, where the committee in number 7 observation says that the nominee did not demonstrate knowledge of topical, administrative, and technical issues touching on the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. Consequently, the nominee lacks requisite abilities and experience to serve as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. It actually contradicts, that observation contradicts what the committee has written up there about the nominee. And therefore, to me, this nominee had a lapse maybe during that time when she appeared before this committee. We've seen, even in the last administration, CAS in tourism was a former Inspector General of Police, Poinet, and she appeared in Parliament here before to collect views on members, where they come from, where we have wildlife. In the base constituency, we have Mount Elgon National Park, and we contributed views to the committee of Poinet. Poinet, having been an Inspector General, he was not an expert in tourism, but listening to him appearing before our committee, he had grasp of the ideas. Also, having been an examiner in the past, we've seen students coming before examiners And when they appear before the examiners, at times they get blackout because of the fear of the unknown. And as a good examiner, you can tell this student, have a seat, give him even a cup of tea or a glass of water, allow the student to rest. Then after that, you examine, and you'll find that this student is able to pass. So for me, I think she was not given adequate time. The committee, I watched that interview on 19th at 2:30 p.m. And I think the committee continued bumping questions to her. To me, as a doctor, the committee should have even given her time to rest and give her time to assess. Somebody who has an anthropology degree, somebody who has a master's degree, somebody who has been a senior position of management, surely you end up with an observation that she does not demonstrate knowledge of topical, administrative, and technical. Even you, if even of you had to appear before me for questioning on medical issues, all of you would not have knowledge of topical, administrative, and technical issues. So for me, I think this lady deserves to be given a second time. On the dissenting report by the minority party, on Honorable Aisha Jumwa, I was just reading 411, and it says the family has actually withdrawn the case of murder against Honorable Aisha Jumwa this afternoon. And I think the DPP is in the process of having that case to be withdrawn. So the allegations that we are making here against Honorable Aisha Jumwa, I think they are overtaken by offense. And having been also a member in this house, she was cleared by all the agencies to contest, even as a governor for Kilifi County. If she was given to be a position to contest for Kilifi County, if she had succeeded, because she almost succeeded as a governor for Kilifi, if she had succeeded as a governor, she would be serving as a governor for Kilifi County. So I don't see it in merit, the argument that she is not fit to be a cabinet secretary. Similarly to Honorable Mithika Linduri. Mithika Linduri was contesting as a governor for Meru. If Mithika Linduri had succeeded as a governor for Meru to be chosen by the people of Meru, he would be a governor now. So we must give them let the due process of law take its effect. When you refer to the case of the former administration, in which a list was read in this house on March 2015, many of those cabinet secretaries were victims of circumstance, because up to today, none of them has been taken to a court of law and proved to be guilty of any offense that they were read in this house. I think at times we should not use the law to demonize. We should not use our positions to cark other people or to destroy other people's careers. This house should not be used to destroy anybody's career. And more so, Penina Malonza. I urge this house that when I bring the amendment on Penina Malonza, we support. And you know why we cannot bring it now is that in Article 56.2, you cannot negate, in the opinion of the Speaker, a motion that is been put. So we need to be able to reject that amendment, that motion by the committee, and be able to bring an approval for Penina Malonza. With those few remarks, I support with amendment.
Member for Kathiani, Honorable Robert Mbui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I think when I listen to a lot of members making contribution on this motion, maybe what we need to ask ourselves is, why is it the Kenyan National Assembly, as per the Constitution 2010, has been given an opportunity to vet all nominees by the President of the Republic of Kenya? I mean, listening to some of the arguments, Madam Speaker, it would probably, there are people who have the opinion that the president should probably just appoint and people go to office. Or people send CVs and they are looked at in an office and people are sent to office. The vetting process is supposed to give this house where we serve an opportunity to be able to go through the credentials and the abilities of these members so that we can make an opinion. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that we cannot say we are wrong or we are right. We are expressing an opinion, which is what the Constitution envisages. And this house must also reach that point where we can stamp our authority. Because we have been in this house, this is the third time. But it is unfortunate that this house, many times we are actually used as a conveyor belt. The speaker reads the names, they go to the appointments committee, they are all passed, and then members, you know, it's like we are choir singing for the executive. Madam Speaker, I think when we talk about this vetting process, I want to thank the Constitution and, of course, the leadership of the House, because this was a very transparent process. I am listening to members speak here, and I'm wondering whether they watch the proceedings. Madam Speaker, Kenyans were also vetting as we were vetting those nominees. And Kenyans saw the competencies. Kenyans heard the answers. Kenyans also appreciated the questions that were asked. In fact, Madam Speaker, I dare say that a lot of the questions that we were asking came from memoranda from the public that is in this report that members need to read, and also SMSs and phone calls that were made to us. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that it is wrong for anyone to cast aspersions on this committee because we are just 21 members that were given the mandate on behalf of the House to be able to listen to these nominees and come up with a verdict. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about what was considered because it's important that members understand this. The Section 6, Part 7 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011 says that an approval hearing shall focus on a candidate's academic credentials, professional training, experience, personal integrity, and background. Madam Speaker, Section 7 indicates that the committee shall consider any constitutional or statutory requirements relating to the office and the suitability of the nominee for the appointment, having regard to the nominee's abilities, experience, and qualities. So, Madam Speaker, when we look at these cabinet nominees that came to us, those were the things that we were considering. And I want to go through the observations that I personally made because as a member of the committee, other than the agreeing to the committee's report, I also have my personal observations. First, Madam Speaker, I noted that this cabinet is made up of extremely...
Honorable Kagombe, what is out of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Is the honorable member in order to insinuate that the chance to vet these members of the cabinet is issued by the executive or the president, while it is very clear in Article 154 that the secretary to the cabinet shall be vetted by the parliament after being nominated by the president. So by insinuating that this is a chance given to us by the executive or by the president, he's out of order. Please declare him out of order.
Madam Speaker, I think there are some comments that are just meant to take away time for people who are making contributions. So I'll ignore that, Madam Speaker, and continue to say that I observed that this cabinet is made up of extremely wealthy individuals. Madam Speaker, during the campaigns, I heard Kenya Kwanza, which is now in power, mention that they will come up with a cabinet and a government that will be with mamambogas, with boda-bodas, and all sorts of leadership from that level, including the small peasant farmers. Madam Speaker, the average wealth of the nominees was 1-point-something billion. And Madam Speaker, I want to say that in future, there's something I want to propose, that we must ensure that the wealth declaration forms that are given by these nominees.
Bombui, do you want to be informed by the majority leader?
I don't want information, Madam Speaker. I want to finish my contribution. So, Madam Speaker, I wanted to propose that in future, the wealth declaration, because we received their personal, comment on their wealth. I think it's important that we get actual proof. If people say they have land in Runda, we see the title deeds. They say they have vehicles, V8s, we see the V8s. They have Range Rovers worth 25 million, we see a logbook. Because, Madam Speaker, there is a danger in when people are being vetted and they are asked their wealth. There's a possibility someone can exaggerate their wealth knowing that they might have 5 years of looting so that they can reach their threshold that they want. So, Madam Speaker, it's important, and I propose, going forward, we try and insist that the nominees give actual proof of the wealth declaration that they make. But, Madam Speaker, I'm also happy that we have democratic rights, even in committees. And you know, we have the right for the majority to have their way, while also the minority have their say. And that is the reason why we have a minority report attached to this report. Many of the nominees, Madam Speaker, had very glaring issues. And I can say that even in my questioning some of them, I would have even recommended that almost 20 of them should not be appointed. But because of the give and take and the discussions, and when I was sometimes put to task, I was unable to really clearly indicate why. That is why we ended up singling out only 3. Madam Speaker, as I talk about those 3, I want to start first with the appointment of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, whom we have agreed that we are going to, we are proposing for appointment. But Madam Speaker, the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary was one position that we had a lot of questions about. And of course, as a committee, we have kind of agreed at the end that we will establish, you know, legislative framework so that we can elaborate the roles. Madam Speaker, the real reason why we want to do that is to ensure that there is no conflict in the service of this cabinet. Because one of the reasons why there is conflict in many times when people are given roles that are not clear or that seem to be, you know, similar to other individuals' roles, then what you end up having is a problem where people do not know where their work starts and where it ends. We saw this happen in the Grand Coalition government, Madam Speaker, because the Vice President then and the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think it's completely out of order for the Honorable Mbui, and I think I also had the Honorable Junet, or the Leader of Minority, insinuate that there is a clash between the responsibilities and functions of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary and that of the Deputy President. Well, the Honorable Mbui is well aware that His Excellency the President, in his Executive Order number 1, designated clear functions and roles of the office of the Cabinet Secretary, Prime Cabinet Secretary, and those of the office of the Deputy President. Indeed, unlike in the handshake government that the Honorable Mbui was very excited to be affiliated to, because he was not even part of the handshake. He was just affiliated and hanging around there with his party leader, Honorable Speaker. There were no clear definitions of what even the Deputy President would do. That is how the Deputy President in the former regime ended up being a candidate of the opposition party. And your candidate in Azimio ended up being Uhuru Kenyatta's project. Honorable Mbui is completely out of order to be misleading the country. What you are doing is misleading the country, Honorable Speaker, that there is no clear distinction on the functions. And you know, through that executive order, that distinction was cleared, and Honorable Mbui, you should not mislead the country.
Madam Speaker, you must give me an extra like 10 minutes, which he has just wasted here, giving a lot of hot air, Madam Speaker, because I really don't think that what you are standing on is a point of order. He was trying to inform me, and I think, well, let me say I stand guided, because that will make him hold his horses. Madam Speaker, on the 3 nominees that we rejected, 1, Aisha Jumwa. The certificate of good conduct from the DCI, Madam Speaker, came out indicating that all the nominees were clean except her. And they clearly indicated, the certificate of good conduct indicated that she has 2 cases. One was a murder case that is yet to be determined. The other one was conspiracy to commit corruption, which is also undetermined. Madam Speaker, surely, when do we start as a nation, as a country, as a continent, to take political responsibility and step aside when we are named for and charged with major offenses? So, Madam Speaker, I think on that particular one, we are not condemning her because she's not been charged yet. I mean, she's not been convicted. But it only makes sense that she steps aside until these cases are heard and determined. Because what would happen if she's appointed today and tomorrow she's convicted of murder? What would happen, Madam Speaker? So I think on that one, it is just taking political responsibility. On the matter of Franklin Mithika Linturi, Madam Speaker, every Kenyan heard. He himself, in fact, the Speaker tried to help him. And we tried to help him and told him, do not answer questions you've not been asked. He's the one who volunteered information to the Kenyan public. He has 35 cases, he has divorce cases, he can't go to his house, he has a problem with everyone. So, Madam Speaker, the problem was not us. We only dealt with the information that came to us. And we felt that this person didn't have the integrity that it took to be able to hold that office, so that Kenyans can get service from people that are clean, and we stop having these issues where Kenyans are constantly...
Your time is up. Your time is up, Honorable Mbui. We will now hear Honorable Onesmus Ngogoyo, Kajiado North.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the motion on the floor. And like a member had mentioned, I will support the motion with an amendment. Madam Speaker, looking at the Public Parliamentary Approval Act, the committee went ahead to conduct the vetting of the proposed CS nominees, and they were able to do so in a record time, and I think we need to congratulate the committee for a job well done. But Madam Speaker, you realize that the Public Parliamentary Approval Act does not carry a marking scheme. It intends to look at the suitability of a member, and Madam Speaker, an hour and a half would not determine the suitability of a member, but going through what the committee has looked at its observation, you could read a lot from majority of the people who have been recommended by their past exposures, their CVs, and even what the committee has gone ahead to say that this was what they were able to come up or to see during the vetting. Madam Speaker, I wish to first of all say that for the members that have been approved, I agree with the committee. But I wish to disagree on the issue of rejecting Penina Malonza as a CS. One, because the nominee, according to the report of the committee, has honors and awards that she has received. One, she has received from the Compassion International as the best team performer, and she was given an award. She was also awarded by His Excellency the President then in 2015 with the Order of the Grand Warrior. And Madam Speaker, it is not possible for her to have been a deputy governor, earn such awards, and still be the person to be rejected and assume that there is nothing in her that she can offer. Madam Speaker, I have served in different entities, Madam Speaker, and I have seen people who are approved by different assemblies. And one of the things that you'll realize is that the people exposure of an individual helps them perform in any one office. And one of the things that you can tell by this individual is that she has people skills. In everywhere she has worked, at least they have defined her as a people's person. She has been one of the best team leaders and awarded internationally by what they call GLLUP, or whatever it is, but it's the Compassion International. And Madam Speaker, you realize also when the committee did its report, they said everything that she feel, her questionnaire, everything, and even how she answered the question, apart from a few issues that they raised, they said she was okay. Madam Speaker, there is no graduate who does not have a skills in management. And tourism could be one of the offices she's been recommended to, but remember, it's about management in every office. You have experts under you, people who you foresee, you manage, and they give you reports. I therefore, Madam Speaker, would wish to say that this House should consider approving this motion with an amendment so that Penina Malonza becomes a CS. It is only fair that we give her a chance to prove herself once in office. In any case, if she does not perform, members will also have an opportunity to take on her, because this cabinet, different from many others, will be appearing before this House. On other candidates, Madam Speaker, I wish to single out the issue of one Aisha Jumwa. A number of members have mentioned about Aisha Jumwa. And Madam Speaker, I don't know why everyone has, the few people who are opposing have an issue with politicians, because Aisha Jumwa was a politician, Mithika Linturi was a politician, and even Penina Malonza. It is not possible for you to single out all politicians. We are also politicians. Assuming we were once nominated to these positions, you would wish to be supported by your colleagues. because it is not possible to say that only professionals have the ability to take on people in offices. Therefore, Madam Speaker, with those very few remarks, I wish to support with amendments and say that Penina Malonza, God willing, will become a CS because we will approve her with amendments. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member for Mwingi West, Charles Ngusia, CNN.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given to me, Madam Speaker. Let me take this opportunity before even commenting on the report on the committee to congratulate His Excellency, Dr. Samoei Ruto, for seeing it wise actually to give the Kamba community 3 CSs. Madam Speaker, the previous administrations have really sidelined us, but this time round, I am happy for the appointment, so congratulations on that. And we have to give credit where it is due. Madam Speaker, I've gone through the report very quickly, and I took some time actually to watch some of the nominees, and let me begin by saying that we can't disagree on what the majority have agreed, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of my sister, let me declare the interest. Penina Malonza comes from my county, and when she was deputy governor, she really performed. Compassion International right now, it is doing so much in our county, and she was awarded as the best performer in that NGO, and she has exhibited many good characteristics of leadership. When you take work experience, tick. When you look at academic credentials, tick. When you look at leadership skills, when she was deputy governor, tick. On what basis are we discrediting my sister? I am begging this House, the members of this House, to pass Madam Penina Malonza's appointment very soon so that she can begin. And we are tired of waiting for this. The vetting has taken too long. Kenyans need to start working. And we can't work if the executive arm is not fully constituted. So, Madam Speaker, I don't have much to say. I am the appointment of Penina Malonza as the CS of Tourism. I know she's going to perform because she has performed before, and no doubt this will be the best CS in our country. With those few remarks, I support.
The member for Mandera East, Hussein Weitan. We'll have the nominated member, Dorothy Kiara.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support this motion. And before I do that, allow me to thank His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya. To support the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency, President William Samoei Ruto, for appointing these very able men and women to serve in his cabinet, to carry the agenda of his government to the next level. Allow me to thank the committee, the appointment committee, which sat for many, many hours and took their time to vet the nominees and gave their recommendation. Madam Speaker, I want to say the men and women who sat in that committee are astute lawmakers, and I'm sure they did put in cognizance every aspect of what they were supposed to look for to come up with these names. Madam Speaker, I want to say these are people who have served in this country in various capacities, and there is no reason for whatsoever reason for anyone to insinuate that some of them are not fit to serve in the cabinet. Examples have been given that nominee Aisha Juma was vetted and allowed to vie for the governorship, and she did not make it. And I'm sure she was allowed to run for that position because she qualified too. Nominee Medekarentori, Franklin Medekarentori, is a person who has served this country in various capacities and has proven beyond doubt that he is capable of serving at whatever capacity. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to passionately implore upon the registrators in this House, let us not have divided mind when it comes to passing these nominees as they are. Madam Speaker, turning to Penina Malonza, who was vetted for the position and the recommendation given that she has not performed very well. Madam Speaker, it's good to know that there are people who suffer from a condition called sociophobia, and normally when they go before people, especially a panel, they normally don't perform so well, and that does not mean that they are not capable. Madam Speaker, I want to join the rest of the members who are supporting this motion and saying I support with an amendment that Penina be part of the nominees who we are passing in this House. I want to implore upon every member, please let us not have dissenting voices when it comes to passing the nominees who His Excellency the President, in his own wisdom, founded faith to nominate them. I submit.
We will now have the member for Molo, Kuria Kimani.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And it's very good to see you, Madam Speaker, on the chair today. It's a great celebration for the great people of Nakuru County. Madam Speaker, I would like to start by weighing in on the issue of a person nominated to a position of Cabinet Secretary or to any other government position where they have an ongoing court case. Madam Speaker, on the record of this House, on the July of 2018, we held a debate on the nomination of one Ben Chumo, who was nominated by His Excellency the former President to be the chairperson for the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Madam Speaker, this House rejected the candidate Ben Chumo on the basis that he had an ongoing corruption court case, an active ongoing corruption case. A few years later, Madam Speaker, and to be specific, last month, the director of the DPP withdrew the case against Ben Chumo. As a result, Ben Chumo was condemned for 4 years without a job. His reputation was tainted. He lost a chance to be the chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, even when he was not guilty of the offenses that he was accused of. In the report, Madam Speaker, the DCI was accused of not responding to 4 letters sent to them between October of last year and May this year. As a result, Madam Speaker, for a mistake not his own, for some just malicious damage, we lost 4 years of this career civil servant, Madam Speaker. Are we going to do the same to the nominees that have been nominated to the various positions just because there is an ongoing court case, even before a court ruling has been ruled saying that they are guilty, Madam Speaker? If we do that, then the easiest way to ensure that no person is approved at this House will just to start a fictitious court case against that particular candidate. And therefore, as long as someone has leveled allegations against you and taken you to court, then you'll be cast to hold any government position in this country. And for that, this House cannot do that. Madam Speaker, we welcome for the first time the nomination to the cabinet of one Zachary Njeru from Nakuru County. We note, as the leaders of Nakuru, that this is the very first time we have a fully fledged minister from Nakuru City and County. Our friends from Azimio were purporting that this man is not qualified. But you have seen a person who have risen from being a nominated councillor. Even before he became councillor, we have seen somebody born in Bodeni, one of the slums in Nakuru town, who went to a district day school, Nakuru Secondary School, went all the way to university, became a councillor, became even a sub-county administrator. And this is a person that understands the real issues of housing in this country, especially because of where he is born. The perception you have of the housing sector being an issue of the rich will be brought to rest by this nominee for housing and public works, Madam Speaker. Because this is someone who understands what it means to be brought up in the slum. This is a person who understands when the president says that we are going to have, like that project he was launching today in Kibera, of people paying only 2,500 shillings a month as mortgage and them ending up owning that house, Madam Speaker. I listened to our people here, especially condemn the one Penina Malonza, the Honorable Penina Malonza, and saying that she's not qualified for this position just because, in their view, she did not perform in a particular way at the interview. But on the contrary, Madam Speaker, we have had people speaking very fluent English, speaking big vocabularies. But when those matters were brought to account or were brought to test, it was just opaqueness and hot air. So, Madam Speaker, therefore, we cannot simply condemn Penina Malomba because she did not perform particularly well at that particular interview. Because we have, even this House has approved before candidates who spoke very well and who sounded very convincingly, only for us to realize they were just lazy and very incompetent in the positions that they were offered, Madam Speaker. I very much love the skill set of this cabinet, Madam Speaker, especially the involvement of politicians as cabinet secretaries. And I would like this matter to rest and for once and for all. There is a general attitude in this country that once you become a politician, you become stupid. That once you become a politician, you do not think. That once you become a politician, you become incompetent. Madam Speaker, we still have very competent lawyers. I am still a practicing certified public accountant, even when I am a member of parliament. So the fact that these people have served this country as politicians should not make us think that they are incompetent or they left their professions. We saw the Honorable Kindiki, Professor Kindiki, argue these cases in court, whether it was at the ICC or the recent Supreme Court case for the presidential petition, and we forgot that he was a politician. We saw in him a brilliant lawyer. What happens when these people are nominated to the executive? Madam Speaker, the candidate of Aisha Jumwa and Mithika Linturi that our Azimio brothers and sisters are saying are not qualified, they vied to be governors in this country. What would have happened had they won the seats of governors? Are we saying that we do not need competent people as governors who are the fathers of our devolution, who really spearhead even more functions that the national government does? And therefore, Madam Speaker, I beg my honorable colleagues in opposition, do not just oppose for the sake of opposing. Look where there is reason, and where there is reason, let us oppose reason and forget our political differences. Madam Speaker, I watched the story of Aisha Jumwa, and I really want us to appreciate this. For the very first time, I had a politician admit that she got a D- in her KCSE. Otherwise, every Mheshimiwa is an A student and every Mheshimiwa is a graduate out here. But we had somebody admit for sure that was her grade and be proud of it. And many Kenyans, when they saw her being interviewed alongside the professors, they felt proud that this is a government that gives opportunities to different people based on their capabilities. Madam Speaker, she helps us understand the complications, the complexities of being a woman. Because I'm just imagining the people who probably were involved in marrying her off at an early age, or the father of her babies then, are still going on with her life. And yet, she is here many years later, being forced to account to what happened to so many years ago when it was not a fault of her own, Madam Speaker. I would really urge this House to unanimously, first of all, reject that dissenting view of those members, because they're just trying to play politics even when there is no smallest window of playing politics. And because, Madam Speaker, the President has indicated and given a commitment that he is not going to shield cabinet secretaries from the oversight of Parliament, to the point of suggesting the amendment of our standing orders to allow our cabinet secretaries to come here and stay in account. If you really want to play your oversight and opposition role, wait for these people to be sworn in, wait for them to start working, and question in this floor of this House what they'll be able to do for this country, Madam Speaker. And with that, I am very happy with the skill set of these people, and I pray and beseech my honorable colleagues to pass all these nominees so that this government can start to work, and so that you can start holding the Kenya Kwanza government accountable for the campaign promises we made for these people of the great Republic of Kenya. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Ugenya. Member for Ugenya, Honorable David Ochieng.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand here to support the motion, and like other members, with the impending amendment by the Honorable Pukose. Madam Speaker, things happen in this country that people take for granted. There's some time back, a president would just appoint a cabinet, his ministers, and no one would question how they are appointed. But Madam Speaker, in the last week, Kenyans were riveted on their TVs to see for themselves who the president had nominated to become a secretary, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the committee. I personally was very glad to watch my colleagues asking these nominees very probing questions, questions that made Kenyans understand and know the kind of persons they were, questions that made Kenyans understand and know whether they were fit for the office, and above all, questions that made Kenyans understand whether the cabinet is going to understand, the cabinet that we're going to have is fit to serve. Madam Speaker, I'm personally very happy with this cabinet for one reason, that in my 2 terms in Parliament, with cabinet secretaries that were not former members of Parliament, Madam Speaker, we serve as MPs. You would go to a ministry, ask a minister for some support on a road or on a water issue or on a police matter, but the ministers, because they're not being politicians, had no clue, sometimes very dumb, about people even sleeping hungry. I remember at the time I went to a minister to ask for seed for planting, and he asked me, why do you need seed in your constituency? Why can't they buy themselves? Madam Speaker, we've had ministers who don't understand that Kenyans in this country, some of them cannot afford basic items like food, can't afford basic items like shelter, Madam Speaker. But I'm happy because in this cabinet, more than half of them, Madam Speaker, have served with us in this parliament. They have been MPs or senators, Madam Speaker, and they come from constituencies. They have served people through election, Madam Speaker. I'm certain that they will understand the needs and requirements of our people, Madam Speaker. And that's why, for colleagues who've been in this House that we're going to pass today or tomorrow, Madam Speaker, we want to ask them not to forget where they have come from. Because the reason they've been chosen, in my opinion, Madam Speaker, is that they're able to understand the pulse of the nation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I had a single issue that I wanted to ask my colleague Wendai and Junet. When they were asking the Honorable nominee for trade, I thought I would hear questions about Kikomi in Kisumu. I thought that I would hear questions about the fish industry in Kisumu being revived, Madam Speaker. And I'm hoping that the nominee for blue economy, nominee for fisheries, the Honorable Mvurya, when passed, is going to spend his time in trying to ensure that the fish you produce in the lake, they are processing, Madam Speaker, is done at the lakeside so that people from that part of the country get jobs because of the lake, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm hoping that when we pass the nominee for trade and investment, the Honorable Kuria, that we will have our Kikomi being rejuvenated, that we'll have cotton industry in Nyanza being rejuvenated. Madam Speaker, these are the things that I am hoping, and I'm hoping that the nominees are listening, that my friend, the Honorable Kipchumba, will ensure that the road network in this country is distributed, like he said during the vetting process, that they will be distributed fairly per constituency. And Madam Speaker, this House must hold the nominees to their words. Madam Speaker, the issue of net worth that is being spoken about on the streets there, Madam Speaker, it is for this House to ensure that those who said they are worth 4 billion or 1 billion or 800 million, Madam Speaker, we hold them to their word, that we will, as a parliament, check at what they have at the end of their term, Madam Speaker. That is why they're asking the questions. The questions being asked about it was not about, today or tomorrow. It's about, we'll be checking in the next 3-4 years what these nominees are worth, whether they are doing the jobs for Kenyans or they have gone there to amass for themselves, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as with any system that's presidential, Madam Speaker, it is important to note that before the President nominated these nominees, Madam Speaker, he considered their competences. He considered their abilities. I'm sure that he even had a conversation with them on the dockets they have been placed at. And that's why I have an issue, especially with the rejection of Madam Malonza. Madam Speaker, if you look at, I've read the report, I've read the engagement between the committee and the nominee, Madam Speaker. And there's nowhere, first of all, where the committee puts a marking scheme, that this is what our marking scheme is about the competence of a nominee. Madam Speaker, I've gone through the report, and the report about Malonza is the same as the report about the other nominees, that the nominee answered questions well, the nominees seem to understand this. I don't find their recommendation, Madam Speaker, speaking to how they engage with the nominee. There's nowhere in that report, Madam Speaker, where the committee says in the report that the nominee could not answer this question or that. There's nowhere where in the report it says that the nominee answered this question wrongly. There's nowhere, Madam Speaker. And so the observation, in my opinion, does not emanate from the report. In fact, I dare say that the recommendation by the nominee on Madam Malonza is basically baying for blood, Madam Speaker. This is not the time for bloodletting. This is not the time. This is not the time to look for blood, Madam Speaker. This is the time to bring together. This is the time to unite. This is the time to ensure that our country moves forward, Madam Speaker, and we cannot move forward, Madam Speaker, if you're going to look for wars where there are no wars, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in this country, I must say this, that in this country, in 2013, our current president and the former president were ICC indictees. They ran, we elected them. Madam Speaker, in this House, we have more than 30 MPs with cases in court. They are members of parliament. That's the truth, Madam Speaker. And so you cannot tell me that because Mithika Linturi has a case in court or Madam Aisha Juma has a case in court, then that is, Madam Speaker, I also dare say with a heavy heart that one of us has been convicted, but he ran, was elected, Madam Speaker, because the Court of Appeal allowed him, because we have put in the law, Madam Speaker, that you are guilty till you are innocent till proven guilty, Madam Speaker. And even after being proven guilty, Madam Speaker, we have said in the Constitution that you must have exhausted all the avenues for appeal. The Honorable Aisha Jumwa, the Honorable Mithika Lunturi have not even been tried by any court of law, Madam Speaker. You cannot verify the veracity of the charge, Madam Speaker, and so you cannot hold them on different levels of integrity, Madam Speaker, like we hold others, Madam Speaker. And so any recommendation based on either guilt or perceived guilt, Madam Speaker, of Madam Aisha Jumwa or Linturi Mithika Honorable, Madam Speaker, for me are misguided. Madam Speaker, as I end, I want to request this House that in my now 10, 11 years in Parliament, what I've seen distinguish a Cabinet Secretary is how they understand the members' needs, how they understand the country's needs, not what papers they have, Madam Speaker. In the past, if you look at the first cabinet, Madam Speaker, the first cabinet of this country in 1963, Madam Speaker, few of them had degrees. Few of them had even worked anywhere, Madam Speaker, but they did so well. And so it would be remiss for this assembly to keep harping on papers. This has papers, this has no papers, Madam Speaker, without the ability, Madam Speaker. We know that some people have served this country so well because of the passion they had for the job. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Michuki, may the Lord rest his soul in peace, did so well as a minister for transport, and I don't think he learned anything. He was an engineer or anything, but he did so well in that ministry, Madam Speaker, that the whole country was saying, bring him back. And so what we as assembly must do is to ensure that after we pass these nominees, we put them to task. Madam Speaker, I'm so happy that we have a president who is so sober, so ready to work, that these ministers, I'm sure in the next 1 or 2 years, they will be gasping for air. Let's put them to task. Let them work for the country, Madam Speaker. The country is waiting with bated breath, Madam Speaker. We cannot wait any longer. Let's pass these guys. Let them get to work. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Kitui Central, Dr. Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I really want to thank you most sincerely for this opportunity. I want to start by really appreciating the appointment committee, Honorable Speaker, for the work they have done. It's not easy. This is the third time I'm witnessing appointment of CSEs in this country as a member of parliament, and I know it's not an easy job. So the committee did a lot of work. I took time to watch the interviews, Honorable Speaker, and I must say that I agree with the majority leader when he says that even as they were vetting, Kenyans were also sending messages. Others were calling, trying to suggest what kind of questions should be asked, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the questions were in a way, structured in a way that you get academic qualifications, it should do with net worth, it should do with whether you have a case in court, whether you are a citizen or not. And Honorable Speaker, to me, one of the most interesting questions was the net worth of individuals who are appearing before the committee. Honorable Speaker, I've looked through this section of the net worth, and what we have picked, Honorable Speaker, is that actually majority of the Kenyans out there are very rich compared to politicians. And it looks like it's only politicians who are not rich. I don't know whether it's because we share our resources with the rest of Kenyans, or it's because we are not aggressive enough to make wealth. Honorable Speaker, I want to single out one of the individuals who appeared before the committee, and from my assessment, this Kenyan must be very good, Honorable Speaker. That this proves that in Kenya, we still have people of high integrity. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the net worth of Governor Mufuria of Kwale, who has been a governor for 2 terms, he is only worthy 120 million. I'm sure not many Kenyans will believe, looking at the kind of life governors are living through and the kind of wealth governors have amassed within the short times they have been governors. So I really want to encourage Kenyans to continue working for the public so that at the end of the day, Honorable Speaker, we provide high levels of integrity as leaders, and at the same time, Honorable Speaker, we make sure that we improve the lives of the Kenyans. Looking at the approvals, Honorable Speaker, you know, Honorable Speaker, I've taken time to read through this report, and there is some consistency in terms of main text of the body of the report and the conclusions. But when I look at my sister, Honorable Penina Malonza, Honorable Speaker, you realize that the main body of the report is inconsistent with the conclusion. Why am I saying that? They are saying very well she's very qualified in terms of academic, she has no criminal case, her net worth is within the range of the rest of them, and all those good things. But then in conclusion, they say that they don't approve her because she didn't have the technical and the administrative capacity, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to remind Kenyans and my colleagues that as a CS, most of the work of our CS is policy direction and strategic direction. And the third one, which is critical, is the political direction also, Honorable Speaker. So when you look at that level, really, I don't think as a CS, you need to be an expert in engineering for you to be the CS transport. And Honorable Speaker, to be very frank with this process, and if we are honest with the process, Honorable Speaker, let's look at it this way, Honorable Speaker. When you look at this report, there are nominees who have been alleged to have criminal cases. Penina Malonza has not been alleged to have any criminal case in this country. There are nominees who have corruption-related allegations, Honorable Speaker. Penina Malonza has no allegation to do with corruption. There are nominees who have allegations to do with murder, Honorable Speaker. Penina Malonza has no allegation to do with murder in this country. There are nominees, Honorable Speaker, who, looking at their papers, there are doubts whether their papers are genuine. Penina Malonza's papers are assessed to be genuine, Honorable Speaker. But despite all this, the people with corruption-related cases, even though they are allegations, the people with criminal-related cases, even though they are allegations, the people whose papers are seen to be not genuine, have been approved by this same committee, Honorable Speaker, and then Penina Malonza, who seems to have no issue at all, Honorable Speaker, is being said to be not qualified to be a CS in this country. Honorable Speaker, I must say, these are double standards. And as a parliament, we cannot allow double standards to be played when we are here, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I've had one of the committee members say that as a parliament, we must be doing seen to be doing our work by saying no to some nominees. I want to say this, Honorable Speaker. It is unfortunate, and I don't think we can do that as a parliament, that we can only be seen to be working when one nominee by the name Penina Malonza is not approved and the other nominees are all approved. Fairness demands that, Honorable Speaker, is either we approve all of them, or if not so, then, Honorable Speaker, we also disapprove all of them. Because all of them are even worse cases, allegations, when you compare them with Penina Malonza. Penina Malonza happens to come from my county, Honorable Speaker. And this is a lady I know for many years. She was our first deputy governor of Kitui County. And is somebody we have interacted with. Honorable Speaker, the only omission, the only mistake, this nominee is being not approved by the committee is because she could not make a presentation. Honorable Speaker, I'm imagining one day, because we are talking about inclusion, I was questioning myself, if it happens that we get a nominee who will not be able to talk, or a nominee who cannot hear, facing some disability, the City Minister's House will not be able to approve that nominee because she can't present herself or he can't present himself. So, Honorable Speaker, for me, I think, really, we can't accept these double standards. And that's why I was somehow also not very happy with the way the motion was being moved, because it's like my friend, Majority Leader Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, was moving the motion, but at the same time trying to move it in an amended form, which he was not telling the House that I'm moving in an amended form. So, Honorable Speaker, I would want to recommend this way. As we approach to the date of voting, which is tomorrow, Honorable Speaker, I think we need to have this motion amended to read as follows: that this House do approve all the names as presented by the committee, including Honorable Penina Malonza. That is my prayer, Honorable Speaker. And if we do that, we will have done justice to this country, so that at the end of the day, we don't seem to disadvantage any of the nominees because of reasons which, from my assessment, don't seem to be strong enough to really reject a nominee. So, Honorable Speaker, as I end, I want to say this, Honorable Speaker, that I want to plead with my colleagues who are in the House and those who will be in the House tomorrow, that when the time comes for voting, let's rise to the occasion, honorable members, and make sure that we approve this nominee who happens to be Honorable Penina Malonza, and who has all the technical qualification in terms of academic qualification, who seems to have worked in many organizations. And to make things worse even, Honorable Speaker, you will read the report. Honorable Penina Malonza has been awarded in this country an award called OGW. Honorable Speaker, I don't know how many members here have that award, OGW, awarded by the President of the country. If we were asked to raise our hands, there will be very few. So I'm asking myself, whoever decided to award this lady, honorable lady, that award, was that person blind? That that person could not see that this lady has what it takes to work for this country and serve the public to the best of our knowledge and ability. Honorable members, I once more plead with you that come tomorrow, we are going to approve this lady so that she joins the rest of the nominees and we have a cabinet which can start working for Kenyans. With those remarks, Honorable Speaker, I submit. Thank you very much.
Member for Laikipia, Honorable Jane Kagiri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this special motion. Madam Speaker, allow me to start by congratulating the appointment committee for a great job that they did and a noble job to the country and to this honorable house. Madam Speaker, I'll also congratulate all the 24 nominees because it's not a small feat that they were nominated in the midst of more than 57 million Kenyans. Madam Speaker, I support the report from the committee, but with an exception on the rejection of the approval of Honorable Penina Malonza. Madam Speaker, I look at Honorable Penina Malonza as an honorable lady who has grown through the process for her to get where she is today. Madam Speaker, let's remember, Honorable Penina Malonza is the first Cabinet Secretary nominee from Kitui South constituency. Madam Speaker, I have listened to those who have spoken before me as they narrated on her presentation and her articulation of the questions that she was asked. Madam Speaker, being a first from that constituency, we need to give her the credit that she has already achieved that feat. She had no predecessor to teach her or guide her on how to go through the process. Madam Speaker, I also continue to read a lot about Madam Penina Malonza, and I learned that she has been a deputy governor for 5 years, which of course was also achieved through hard work. Madam Speaker, it's also good to mention that having lost the position of deputy governor in the year 2017, Honorable Penina Malonza again vied for the position of woman representative in Kitui County. This, Madam Speaker, can only confirm that this is a determined soul we are talking about and a lady who is going to work for this country. Madam Speaker, away from politics, I looked at Penina Malonza's career progression. This is a lady who has grown from being a facilitator to a supervisor, to a senior supervisor, and eventually a director. Madam Speaker, thereon she goes to become a deputy governor, and when we look at her career progression, this is a lady who is destined for greatness. From deputy governor, I pray and I believe she'll now go into being a cabinet secretary. Madam Speaker, we look at a lady who holds a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, but she has gone ahead and applied to continue studying another master's degree. Madam Speaker, that talks of a willing learner and a lady who is even going to learn in her new position as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. Madam Speaker, once in a while we are asked who your classmates were. It is good to confirm that Honorable Penina Malonza received her Order of Grand Warrior Award on the same day that I received mine. So I know she has done an honorable job to this country and she rightfully deserved the award. Madam Speaker, I also read of many acts of charity that Honorable Penina Malonza has done to her community. She has served orphans, she has served women, and Madam Speaker, anybody who lends to the poor lends to God. So let us believe that the prayers from these people are also what have gotten her to where she is today. Madam Speaker, I read on to hear that some of the issues Madam Penina Malonza had was that she could not articulate her answers in the questions she was asked. Madam Speaker, the biggest challenge we have in my community is in regards to human-wildlife conflict and compensation to those who have been affected by those issues. Madam Speaker, when Honorable Penina Malonza was asked that question, her answer was that she should engage the concerned committee to increase budget allocations for her to serve Kenya. That is the right answer that was expected, because whenever we have asked these questions, it is an answer of budget allocations. For me, that was the perfect answer that she should have given. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I wish this honorable house takes its time to quickly approve the nominees so that this country gets on moving. The people out there are waiting for us to deliver on our promises, and I believe by us urgently approving the 24 nominees, the country can move on and we can be able to serve Kenyans as we promised them as we were campaigning. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity, and I believe it's an upward projection for Madam Penina Malonza. She now goes on to become a cabinet secretary. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I realize we have a lot of interest for this motion. The time is, of course, very limited. If you are able to limit in our speaking, then more people would get the chance to speak. I'll give this chance to Honorable Dido Raso for SACCO.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And let me congratulate you for having appointed to the Speaker's panel. I was on the appointment committee, and I want to really be short in my presentation. First of all, the committee was well guided by the Speaker of the National Assembly. And I think he used his wisdom throughout our deliberation and throughout the vetting process for us to reach, as a committee, without any division, a conclusion that we were largely satisfied, although we were not happy 100%. Madam Speaker, the committee was guided by two documents: the Parliamentary Appointment Approval Act and also the Constitution.